Very dark confessions of an African president. My truth will never make the news. The president of a nameless African nation sat in his bunker, a thin cigarette burning to ash between his fingers. The lights flickered above him. The rebels had cut power to most of the city, and the palace generators hummed on borrowed time. Outside, the country he had ruled for 20 years was on fire. Gunshots echoed faintly, closer every hour. He clicked record on an old tape recorder and cleared his throat. His voice was rough, worn down by years of shouting speeches and silencing dissent. If you're listening to this, I'm dead. You'll never hear this recording on your radios or in your papers. No, this is for whoever finds it when they dig through the ashes of my regime. Maybe you're a journalist or a rebel or just someone curious enough to care. Either way, you want to know the truth? Fine. Here it is. He exhaled a shaky breath, the weight of his sins finally too much to carry. I didn't come into power like they say in the history books. I wasn't some savior of the people. I wasn't a revolutionary hero. No, I took this seat because I had a gun and because I wasn't afraid to use it. We were young soldiers back then, fresh off the coup that killed the old dictator. We swore it would be different this time. We swore we would rebuild the country, clean up the corruption, lift up the poor. Instead, we tore it apart. His voice caught in his throat. Do you know what it's like to order men to kill civilians? To look into the eyes of farmers and shopkeepers while you sign their death warrants because they stood on the wrong side of the wrong protest. At first, I told myself it was necessary, that the nation would crumble if I let the dissent spread. So I made examples out of them. Public hangings, soldiers kicking down doors, children hiding under their beds while their fathers were dragged into the night. You tell yourself it's for the greater good until the faces haunt you in your dreams. I remember one, a village elder. He was old, gray-bearded, harmless. He spoke against me at a town meeting. Just words, just words. I made him kneel in the square, tied his hands behind his back, and ordered the soldiers to light the match. They burned his entire village down to the ground. People screamed for hours. I didn't even stay to watch. I got back in my armored car and left. Years later, when we passed through that region again, it was quiet, like a ghost town. Someone told me the villagers had started worshiping the elder as a martyr. They built a shrine to him out of the ashes. They called me a monster, and they were right. He coughed, took another drag from his cigarette, and continued. The elections were a lie, all of them. Every ballot box was stuffed before the people even got to vote. The so-called opposition parties? I handpicked their leaders, paid them off with houses and promises. But the people didn't care, not really. First, they loved me. I gave them speeches, promises, and just enough food aid to keep them quiet. Then there was the money, he whispered, his voice low with shame. Billions in foreign aid. Millions in loans. They send money for hospitals, schools, clean water. But the roads are still broken, the hospitals still empty. Where did the money go? You know where it went. My children's apartments in Europe. Their cars, their designer shoes. While the kids in the countryside drink from muddy streams and die from diarrhea. They say the West doesn't care what we do. They're wrong. The West cares, just not about you, not about the people. They care about their contracts, the oil pipelines, the gold, the diamonds, and I gave them what they wanted. You think I didn't try to stop? There were times, late at night, when I looked in the mirror and hated myself. I thought of resigning, leaving it all behind. But how can you stop when the men under you are worse? The generals, the ministers, they all wanted a piece of the cake. You try to fight them, they kill you. So you play the game. You become what they are. And then there's the prisons. His voice grew darker, almost hollow. I don't know how many people have disappeared into them. Hundreds, thousands maybe. Most of them never come out. We tortured them, starved them, beat them until they forgot their own names. Do you know what it feels like to hear a man beg for mercy? To hear him scream for his children? And do nothing? First, it's hard. But eventually, you stop hearing it at all. You close your ears because if you don't, you'll go mad. He slammed his fist against the table, the cigarette dropping from his fingers. You think I'm confessing for forgiveness? No, I don't deserve it. I don't want it. I just want you to know the truth. There is no hero here. No good man trapped in a bad system. I did this. I did all of it. The massacres, the bribes, the betrayals. The blood of this country runs through my hands. And now, as they close in on me, as I hear the rebels shouting in the distance, I know I'm going to die. I deserve to. But you, whoever you are, if you take this recording and play it for the world, don't let them pretend it's only me. Don't let them say, he was just a bad apple, because I'm not alone. Every leader like me, the ones in suits, the ones who smile for cameras, the ones you call honorable, they've all done this too. I'm just the one stupid enough to confess it. The president stopped the recording. His hand hovered over the tape for a long moment before he pocketed it. His eyes turned to the door. The distant gunshots were closer now, boots stomping outside the bunker. When the door burst open and the rebels stormed in, they didn't see a monster. They saw an old man sitting quietly at a desk, his hands trembling. For a moment, there was silence as their leader stepped forward, rifle pointed at his chest. The president looked up, his eyes hollow, his voice calm. Finish it. The shot rang out. The bunker fell silent again. But somewhere, buried deep in the rubble of a burning nation, a small tape recorder held the last confessions of a dying man. The truth, though ugly, would live on. Whether anyone cared enough to listen was another story. You have reached the end of this fictional story. If you want more or a continuation, kindly let us know in the comments section. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel TrenderHQ for more. Thank you and see you on our next video.